Hello and welcome everybody. I would like to start my new series, Gambit Guide. So we are talking about your opening repertoire, which will include Gambit systems. It was not a surprise that as a young player I love to play Gambit systems. Why I do recommend you to study aggressive and attacking openings? The reason could be very easily explained. When you play Gambit openings, you learn the most important principles of the opening strategy very quickly. The importance of development, timing for the combination, the meaning of the initiative. So how to use your development advantage and other very important issues. For successful results, you should develop your tactical skills. So these skills is very important. Why? Because we can say that chess is 99% of tactics. So you may come with very deep strategic idea, but your opponent could punish you after just one tactical slip. You may try to remember the best examples of playing, like Sicilian by Kasparov, Anand or Topalov, but it will be just waste of time and energy for that unsuccessful task. After a first move that wasn't in your home preparation, you will lose your way and probably the game. And it's happened many times. When you study any chess opening, you do not study moves, but ideas. There is a reason I would like to show you the most important ideas behind the openings moves and explain you the purpose of playing this on that move. And today we start with gambit. We call it Danish gambit. So after e4 and e5, in this position where black is trying to counter-attack your e4 move with e5, the result is often very sharp and open position. White immediately challenges the center pawn on e5 by playing d4. E takes d4, black is accepting. And now, instead playing queen takes d4, white is offering sacrifice. So c3. This is quite surprise move. Black was going to benefit from the early white's development after queen takes d4, knight c6, when white's queen is going to be attacked and white, I would say, losing the time because we have to move the queen back to d1 or to a4. Instead, white is offering another pawn sacrifice after c3. D takes c3, so black is firmly accept the sacrifice, and now white is sacrificing another pawn, so by playing bishop c4. This energetic opening system is called the Danish gambit. After c takes b2 and bishop takes b2, this is so-called accelerated variation of Danish gambit with 2 pawns ahead. Black, of course, hopes to realize his material advantage quite easily. However, white has quite serious positional dividends such as huge development and mobility advantage, significant control over the center. So pay attention that white is taking full control over the center. White bishops are very nicely placed to put pressure over the black center and the king side, of course. Pay attention to this. Bishop on b2 is not allowed black's bishop from f8 to be developed. Bishop on from c4 is attacking the most weakest spots as black's position, is a pawn on f7. The open lines and diagonals are eventually along which white could develop very unpleasant threats. Of course, now black has wide selection of options, and we will start from the most obvious and greedy attempt. So instead continue something like knight c6 or knight f6. Black is trying to counterattack by playing queen g5, attacking white's pawn on g2. Black is not only intending to grab the third pawn, but let's say in case white is playing the wrong move like g3, black answers immediately. Bishop b4 check, knight d2, queen takes d2, queen takes d2, bishop takes d2, and king takes d2. As a result, black trade queens, the whites attack over the black's position is disappeared. Let's say black could simply answer knight f6, having 2 pawns and probably much better position in the endgame already. So white g3 move is not so great. So let's back and consider options for white. Why this g3 move is not so correct way to use white's development advantage? By moving that pawn, white allows black to follow the well-known principles, which the side with the material advantage should go after in 99% of the cases. If you have material advantage, it's often better to exchange and enter an early end game where you can make your advantage count. Let's consider it. The advantage of 7 pawns against 6 is quite significant. But an advantage of 2 pawns against 1 is just 50% more. So in case of g3, white is losing time. And this time is very, very important in the gambit system like that one. Do not forget that it's spirit of player with the initiative that fulfills this promise, or does not. Opening with attacking gambit system and then playing cowardly moves like g3 is a sure recipe for disaster. So indeed, if you consider queen g5 move more seriously, we can see drawback. Look at the next important principles. Don't develop your queen too early. It could be an option only when you can achieve very good target. Would be pawn on g2 such a great target? Remember another opening principle. Develop all your pieces rapidly. So, continue our thoughts. Let's consider the next move. Knight f3. So instead of protecting the pawn, white is sacrificing additional pawn. Queen take g2, the most obvious. Rook g1. So black's queen has been attacked. At the moment, black is 3 pawns up. Indeed, after rook g1, there are not many squares where black's queen could go to. Queen h3 seems like the only move. I would like to pay your attention to this position. I have found from my experience that in their early chess development, many chess players get too concerned about the position like this one. Black has 3 pawns up, but look at his minor pieces. In the first 7 moves, black played 4 moves with the queen, 3 moves with the queen, and another 3, correct, with the pawns. Undoubtedly, white has a clear development advantage, which should be converted into something more. The most difficult thing is to know the method, how to transfer your positional advantage. Many of you would play simply bishop take g7, bishop take g7, rook take g7, winning back 1 pawn, but after knight h6, black is covering the f7 pawn, and it's not so easy for white to use his advantage. Later you can ask yourself, wow, where did I go wrong? What happened that I spoiled all my initiative? My attack is gone. The answer is a simple one. Before starting the calculation, ask yourself, what should I assault? Where is my target? Look at the position once more. Usually, when you could correctly label the aim, you are halfway to the success. In the current position, we could discover the obvious threatened pawn on g7. We also could tell that f7 pawn is good target. Black's position of queen on h3 is also not so great. These clues lead immediately to knight g5 as a good option, and also many people would consider this move as the best. Indeed, after queen takes h2, black is counter-attacking by directly aiming our rook on g3, on g1. It's not so easy for white to use his advantage. So bishop takes f7 will be met by king e7. White is having so many pieces in the game, but still, black is somehow surviving. Instead, white is coming with a great shot. Bishop takes f7, check. Eliminate the f7 pawn with the check. While after king takes f7, white comes with a nice fork, knight g5. So, it means that bishop takes f7 is untouchable. Black has to move his king somewhere. King d8. Indeed, white continues to bring more power into the g7 square. Pretty good is an immediate bishop take g7, bishop take g7, and rook take g7. So white is already just 1 pawn down, and still black is not solving all his problems yet. King in the center, g8 knight is under attack. Bishop c8 and knight b8 and rook e8 are still sleeping. So white is of course better in this position, despite the fact being a pawn down. But of course instead, bishop take g7 sent to the fact that rook on h8 is stuck, we could perform a nice tactical blow. Look at that. Rook take g7. So pay attention that black can't capture bishop take g7 because h8 rook is gone. So after rook take g7, black could try playing something like knight e7. And we have to find the good way where to move the rook. So the solution is quite simple. After rook g3, white is simultaneously attacking also queen to h3 and also the rook on h8. Black resigned. So this quite simple game shows lot of quite interesting ideas from white side, and also we studied this time how to use our development advantage, how to perform in the situation when you keep the initiative. But now let's go to the next game. We are continue studying the Danish gambit. After e4, e5, d4, e takes d4, c3, d takes c3, and bishop c4, c takes, bishop takes b2. Once again, we are looking at critical position. So instead of playing queen g5, which we can consider as a wrong attempt, black could play immediately bishop b4 check. And with this tempting move, black intends to complete the development on the king side as soon as possible. White has two obvious answers. White could play or knight c3 or knight d2. Of course, dubious should be bishop c3, which only reduce White's attacking chances on the king side after bishop takes c3, knight takes c3 and d6. So once again, we have to follow the rules. When we have less material, we have to try keeping as more pieces as possible. So especially we are not going to trade our very active bishop, which already developed on b2. So look at pawn on g7. Now it's under attack. So why do you position the initiative? Is better to avoid simplification. Every exchange should be rationalized. It should bring some positional tactical dividends. So knight c3. White complete his queenside development. The knight is well placed on c3, from where it could control the center. And in the nearest future, the move like knight d5 could become a reality. Knight f6. Despite the fact that White has a clear superiority in the center, Black is challenging the e4 pawn. Black in White's pawn to advance. After e4, e5, which looks quite nice, Black has queen e7, so counter-attacking. The e5 pawn is pinned right now, and after knight f3 and d6, I don't see so much advantage from White's side. So Black is doing quite okay. That's back. So instead of moving the pawn, White plays knight e2. Sharpest line. So White is ready to sacrifice additional third pawn. Knight takes e4. Looks obvious, but being 3 pawns ahead, Black will find himself very soon in a losing position. The main reason is, of course, well known. Development advantage. Short castling. White perfectly finished his development. When Black's minor pieces are on the queen side have no chance to be involved in the battle. Don't forget the important principle. This principle is quite useful almost everywhere. Develop all your pieces and castle quickly. Don't play with the same piece twice in the opening. Look at knight takes e4 move. This is against the principles. Instead, going for short castling, Black is capturing the third pawn by playing second time with his knight. After castling and knight takes c3, Black has a difficult choice. How to move the king away from the center files, where White already intends to play rook e1 check and to use his heavy artillery. Black could try playing immediately short castling, but this effort will be made by knight d5. Look at that. White is having 3 minor pieces looking towards the Black's king side. Also, the bishop on b4 somehow hanging. After bishop d6, White is continuing his attack by queen g4, threatening the checkmate. And Black is in critical situation. Since g6 is only answer, knight f6 check. King h8. Queen h4, as nothing could save Black's king. Position is totally lost. h5, knight takes h5, of course. Or even queen g5, threatening queen h6. No way to stop the checkmate. Let's back. So instead of playing short castling, black anyway try to trade pieces. Bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3. The pair of white's bishop in an open position is quite a serious advantage. White is aiming to eliminate the pawn on g7 or to start the mating attack with the rook e1 check, leaving black's king without castling. What to do here? How to solve the problems? So let's try to castle. Short castling. Black could think that everything is fine and the main danger has just passed away, but white has the bishop's pair aiming at the black's king, and white's queen is just a move away. If we look at the position carefully, we discover certain combination motives which are provoking by the shakiness of the black's king side. At first glance, queen d4 looks very, very powerful, aiming the g7 pawn. However, black has defense, queen g5, covering the g7, the most weakest spot in his position. Okay, so let's try to find the better continuation. If queen d4 doesn't work immediately, that gives us a clue of how to prepare a killing blow. White has to provoke moving the pawn g7 and only then to set a battery on the long diagonal a1, h8. Queen g4, threatening the g7 pawn. So the only way to stop queen g7 is to move g6, but g6 moves totally exposed black's king side. Queen d4, after which black is in totally hopeless position. Black was planning to play f6, somehow obstructing the long diagonal, but it's not possible. Look, the bishop on c4, not allowing black pawn to move. So the pawn on f7 is hanging. Black has no any chance to stop mate in 2. Inevitable threats, queen g7 or queen h8. So let's try, after bishop takes c3 and bishop takes c3, play something else. So short castling is losing completely. So we can try move like queen g5. Now g7 pawn is covered and black is planning to finish his development by playing short castling. As it often happens, fixing one problem leaves another one unresolved. Black's king is stuck in the center and white easily takes the initiative. Rook e1 check. That factor that black's king in the center, allowing white to start the direct threats on the black's king. Rook e1 check. Now, pay attention, and king f8 is losing immediately. Why? White is using his powerful couple of bishop b4 check, d6, sacrificing one bishop. What for we the piece, black's king is totally done. King g8, only move and easy. So rook is reaching the back rank, and this is a typical classical situation when all black pieces on the back rank except queen, and the king is going to be mated also on the back rank. So king f8 not possible. Already black options are quite limited. Only way is to play king d8. Now, white would like to reach the g7 pawn somehow. h4. We are trying to get rid of pawns g7, only defender, the black's queen on g5. Queen takes. Bishop takes g7. White takes the pawn, attacks the rook on h8, and prepares a very nice combination. So black has right now only move, only answer, rook g8. Looks like bishop on g7 is attacked and we have to move it somewhere. But instead of moving the bishop back, white comes up with a crucial blow. Look at the current position. Let's imagine that in some way white could distract the black's queen from diagonal d8 h4. And in that case, bishop f6 move will checkmate black's king. For such a goal, white could perform some extraordinary action. Queen g4. Decoying the queen from the d8 h4 diagonal. So now if black is captured and queen takes queen, and bishop takes f6 will lead to the checkmate. Pay attention that if black is to move, that black could checkmate white's king. So after queen g4, only way for black is to play something like queen h6, trying keep covering f6 square. So white to move and win. So here is mate in 2. Bishop f6 is the solution. Bishop f6 totally crushes the black's position. The rook on g8 is hanging. Force black to capture. Queen takes f6 and queen takes g8. Checkmate. So I would like to carry on the third game. Third classical game in the Danish gambit. e4, e5. d4, take on d4, c3, d takes c3, bishop c4, c takes b2, bishop takes b2, bishop b4 check. So the previous game we studied what would happen in case of knight c3, knight f6, knight e2. But of course, as I paid your attention, black is not forced to capture the pawn on e4. Black instead could play something like g6 or short castling, reaching quite playable position. So that's why I would like to show you another way for black, for white, knight d2 move, keeping the diagonal a1, h8 open. So black's pawn on g7 right now is under attack. Queen g5. Once again, black is playing very aggressively. By playing queen g5, black is aiming also g2 pawn, also d2 knight, and seems like nothing could stop its intention of trading the queens after queen g3 and queen takes d2, going into the simple endgame with 2 pawns up. Indeed, as we were seeing before, white in the gambit situation, when already we sacrifice material, we prefer to continue the development instead going into defense. Knight f3, very strong move. White is going to sacrifice another pawn for the speedy development and strong initiative. Using one of the most important attacking principles the first world champion Wilhelm Steinitz. If you have advantage, you have not only a right to attack, but also a duty to attack. Otherwise, there is a risk of losing the advantage. Queen takes g2. Rook g1. So it's quite similar to the first game we looked at that lesson. At the moment, black is 3 pawns up, but his g7 pawn is unprotected. After queen h3 and bishop takes g7, white is simply winning because the h8 rook is gone and white is gaining the decisive material advantage. So instead playing queen h3 after rook g1, black is trying to mix up everything by playing bishop takes d2. Now, if knight takes d2, then our rook is unprotected. So queen takes g1 and black is even winning. After queen takes d2 and queen takes f3, black is intending queen takes e4 and somehow still in the game. Indeed, white has prepared effective refutation. What is that move? This is very nice solution. King e2. Strong intermediate move. At the moment, black has bishop on d2 unprotected. But black is having 3 pawns and knight. For nothing looks like. Indeed, queen has to go. Queen h3 only move. And look at the position after queen takes d2. White is having huge positional advantage. Look at all his pieces. All developed. g7, f7, pawns, very nice target. So white is having huge advantage. Despite the fact white is 3 pawns on, his position is totally winning. Black's only way to stop bishop takes g7 is to play something like knight f6. And white's was a quite huge development advantage and clear superiority in the center. Immediately targeting black's position. Bishop takes f7. This combination we already studied, and this combination does work even in this situation. Very natural tactical shot. Now, what would happen in case of king f8? Definitely black cannot accept the sacrifice. After knight g5, the queen is gone. But where to move the king? Let's try king f8. Queen g5, threatening the checkmate. Black's only answer is queen h6, trying to trade the queens. But after trading, black is losing almost all his material. Bishop takes f6 and h8 rook is gone. So white is easily winning. Let's look what would happen in case of king d8. Of course, white is getting rid of black's pawn on g7. Rook takes g7. Knight takes e4. And let's try to find here the very nice combination. White to move and mate in 2. Black's king is cramped by its own pieces and pawns, which gives white a chance to perform the nice queen sacrifice. Look at that. Queen g5 check. Black is forced to capture, but this move distracts the knight from the f6 square when white is coming with the last check, but this is also a mate. Bishop f6, so black paid for not following the opening rules when the wrong strategy by playing queen g5, take g2, trying to win material instead continue developing. So these 3 games we studied today are very, very typical for the gambit situation in general, not only about the Danish gambit. White in these games were showing the most important principle of how to play in the gambit lines, trying to develop as fast as possible all his pieces to the game, making castling very soon, try to keep the initiative, aiming opponent's position all the time, not allowing black to breathe free. I believe you enjoyed my first lecture about the Danish gambit, and I would like to meet you next time. Thank you very much. You were watching lecture about Gambit's Guide by Grandmaster Boris Alterman. See you next time. Bye.